In 1993, I think it was, under the European Single Act, I was made a citizen of a country, under economic bloc back in 1993, and I was never asked. I was born a British citizen, and then suddenly, overnight in 1993, I can't remember the exact date, I was made a citizen of a foreign country, a superstate that I never asked for. And no one in this country was ever given a choice. It would be nice if we were asked, politely asked, do you want to be a part of the European Union, a de facto, like Soviet Union, And now, when June came, June 6th, 23rd, 16, we were actually given a moment to say what we thought, and I voted to leave. And I said, no, thank you. I don't want to be part of this. So at least I was given the moment of the day and the chance of liberation for our people. Very rich people at the moment are cashing in while we're in the EU. But at the end of the day, I think the ordinary people in the street in this country, as in France, as in Greece, you only have to look at Greece. Being in the EU is not a bunch of roses. I mean, look what's happened in Greece. Bankruptcy, pensions cut, people can't feed their families. Is this an example of how good the EU is? I'd like to see this new group, the UK Change Party, whatever they call it, the Tingers, and all this Liberal Democrats and SNP should see, go to Greece and see what's happened. And Italy's suffering, Spain's suffering. At least 40% of the young are unemployed in Spain, 60% of the young are unemployed in Greece. There's huge mass unemployment all over Europe. So I'd like to know what really is good about the EU, because it's failing over there, and I don't want it to fail. Well, it's beginning under the EU to fail over here. I don't sick of it. So it's time that we took the chance and seized the moment, got the day of freedom, and got out and stood on our own 2 feet instead of being an economic slave of the EU. Because of all the rules and regulations, because of the continued, power grab by the EU over many, many years. You've seen the mass unemployment, the 26 million unemployed in Europe, the devastation of huge, cuts in Greece, pensions cuts, wages cuts in Greece, and I don't want that to happen to this country. We've lost our fishing, we've lost our, our farming. Farmers are told to not produce land under EU regulations, and we've had many of our laws taken away and control of our borders. It's the job situation, 26 million unemployed. It's affected the food prices in this country, which is inflated, that we can't buy from outside of the EU, unless they put tariffs on other countries. In many places you can get cheaper stuff, But here, I believe that we've suffered through it, with the crash of the boom and bust. The 1990, the exchange rate measurement cost us about 7 billion in gold. I mean, that money could have gone to the NHS or schools, or could have done marvellous things in this country instead of chasing the dodgy dream of trying to peg it with the pound with the mark. It cost us a fortune. So I think that a lot of damage was done over the years. Fish has been thrown back in the sea that could have been eaten, that people are paying very high prices for food. And yet, under EU regulation, the food is just simply thrown back in the sea. So I can't see what benefits, from the EU at all. I think, personally, we'd be a lot better off out. In the long term, the British people will benefit from this, because, otherwise I wouldn't be here if I didn't believe in this thing, because I've fought for many, many years against the EU. And I've seen what's happened in France, happened in Spain, Italy, Greece, all over Europe, in many countries, seen the suffering of these countries, like the riots now in France. It just exacerbates the situation. It just strings things out, and I believe in the end makes people suffer. If this is not sorted out, if we don't leave, whether a deal is done or not, but the sooner we get out, the better we've got a chance to prove that the freedom of this country, and that we can do it, like Switzerland or other countries, we could just press on and govern ourselves as it should be. I remember, from years ago, there was some writing on the wall somewhere, graffiti. If voting changed anything, they would make it illegal. And when it did change, when the establishment thought that we would vote to stay in, and when it did change, they were shocked, and they can't accept it. And they want another vote, roll the dice for a so-called so-called people vote, I think it's a European Union vote, part 2. It's a political coup to try and overturn the will of the people. The establishment did not like it one bit, and as I said, trying to make the 17.5 vote illegal, just as the slogan warned us so all those years ago. So someone got it right on the writing on the wall.